Hello and welcome to the Potted RV. Today we're going to go over planting, what I'm going to be doing for my summer plantings, which will be in that big grow bag right there, and do a small walkthrough on what I have growing in the garden for most of spring and what'll still be carrying over a little bit through summer. Mostly it's not going to be too much, but I won't pull anything out until they look like they're pretty much done. So let's go ahead and get into it and take a walk through the garden. So now we have this 880-gallon grow bag filled. It took over 16 bags to fill it, and that was at just slightly under 1 cubic foot bags. And the African daisies, I'm slowly getting my son to stop picking the flower heads off of. Now I have these guys in the sun for, not in the sun, but up against this side of the RV for a reason. It's the eastern side of the RV, and I do that because of the sun being a little intense in May and June, and sometimes August depending. And it's a habit that throws back from when I was in Arizona, and I had a realization about it just today. I have a strawberry plant that's sitting on the table with plantlets rooting in it that I'm having to quickly hydrate because it got too dried out and it was watered this morning. So definitely check your plants every single day. But let's get back to the garden itself. So this is one of my Thai basils, and I let my Thai basil flower. I know a lot of people will go ahead and deadhead the flowers. I don't cook with Thai basil very often. I keep it more for pollinators than I do for cooking. So I never mind it flowering. And then down here is I think this is German thyme. Nope, it's garden thyme. And as you can see, just in case anybody ever wonders if you still get weeds in potted plants, you do. This clover right here, because it's not supposed to be in here, is a weed. So we're going to go ahead and pull that. Definitely a weed. And it's commonly the most common thing I find in my potted plants is usually clover. And then this right here, which is going to need to be watered too. I don't know why, but I've always had this happen with my bell peppers. I'm not sure what's going on, but I did have visitors. I couldn't find the aphids, but I did have visitors from a ladybug and some ladybug larvae. So I'm expecting that somewhere in my garden there's aphids, because they usually track aphids down by smell. So I'll be looking and being on the lookout for them for a while. So these right here are radishes, and these are finally starting to actually have their roots swell. These guys were planted in March, and it is now May 11th. So not all radishes are quick growing. A lot of them are, but not all of them are. And then up along the radishes is the peas, these are sugar snap peas. So I won't typically harvest them this small, because like you do with snow peas, they'll need to swell up. These are dwarf sugar snap peas. Hold on. So I kind of wish the wind would stop, but they have some really pretty colored pea flowers. I mean, most pea flowers are pretty, but these ones I really like. Some of them are purple, some of them are this pink color. They're very, very pretty. And of course, my little gnome. And then behind the peas is my jalapeno plant, which is actually starting to flower. So I should see some jalapenos on it fairly soon. This is the regular potato bed, and there are potatoes in there, but I don't expect to see them for another week or two. And then down here, oh, this is hard to do because there's several cameras on this newer one I'm running. So down here is the roses that were nearly dead. They actually look really, really pretty now and are very, very healthy. And there's the Genoese basils that I haven't been able to bring myself to completely snip down. The strongest one, I should be keeping just strongest one or two and then up potting it. I keep telling myself I'm going to, and then I don't. And then that's right there is it's the hibiscus and the Florida cordyline. And it's done a lot of blooming. It's still got a couple more blooms. And it's got a lot of little buds coming on. Hibiscus, because they're kind of tropical, subtropical, they really like it wet. And it's hard to keep them watered enough for their liking. So there's another one of the roses. And like I said, they are all looking absolutely stunning now. And then over here, well, this right here is actually the tag washed off. I think it's common chives. I planted it just to see how it does. And then obviously this is the sweet potatoes. They're doing really nicely and starting to come out to being really pretty, but they were planted in here week and a half ago. So I expected them to slow their growth down a little bit and then start producing these new leaves. And they have done exactly that. They've done really nicely. And then this is rosemary that I actually purchased. And I don't usually purchase. I usually take it from cuttings, but I didn't know anybody around here that had cuttings. So I don't usually do rosemary from seed just because it tends to really take forever to get a decent amount of rosemary from seed. So, and down here, we're going to pull it out a little bit, just take a better look at it. This is my oregano, and I do believe this is, yeah, it's Italian oregano. This I'm going to have to up pot very, very soon because this is actually one of the pots the roses had been in. And my son likes to move things around. This is actually a parsley that I'm about to give up on. It keeps, let me see, it keeps trying, but I kind of need to give up on it. And then this, and I did finally find out what variety this is, a potato, tomato. This is a better bush tomato. And I finally, if I can get in here, I don't like how close it is. It's potted towards this side, which is why it's always leaning. And of course, it makes it hard to keep it standing in the wind. So I've had to put a rock in there to keep it standing. And I did solve, if I can get in here and show you, I did. Yeah, that's one thing about determinate tomatoes. They're very dense and they don't move like an indeterminate does. But if you can see that, I did solve the blossom end rot with these. So that's nice. Now it had ripe fruit on it, but my son picked that this morning. And he did share it with his mama, which was impressive. I did get to taste it, and I actually like the flavor of these. I'm still going to be planting today, and we'll go through that with the planting here in a little bit. But I am going to be planting some determinate tomatoes today. If I'm going to do tomatoes, I prefer to do a determinate tomato in a potted situation, but that's not always possible. Like I have San Marzans, and we'll get down to them. Those are not determinants. They are indeterminates, and I'm coming up with a plan because my normal method of Florida weed is not going to work in the pot they're in. So we're working on it. I apologize for the noise. I do live in an RV park, so I can't do much about how close my neighbors are. So this right here is the I don't know why I'm having so much trouble thinking of what they are right now. These are blackberries, and these are the ones that were really, really not doing well when I got them from my aunt. My aunt had bought them a year or so ago and pretty much nearly killed them. Between her and my mom, I swear, I have spent my whole life convinced there's no such thing as a brown thumb, and I swear those two are trying to prove me wrong at every turn. I love them both, but they kill plants. And then this is the other Thai basil, and these were rooted from both Thai basils I have are rooted from cuttings. But I have, because I let them flower, I have noticed something. Anywhere they're close by, I get these. That is a Thai basil seedling. It's definitely a basil seedling. And I'm just going to leave it alone. Once it gets big enough, I'll move it. And then, let's see, down here is garlic chives. And these are coming up. I don't know if the camera will, oh yeah. So they are coming up. And I'm really happy to see that. That is one of the benefits to being on the eastern side of this fifth wheel is the heat of the day. These guys are shaded. All of my plants are shaded at the heat of the day, which makes this to where they get a break from the very intense sun, unlike these, which these are the strawberries that I have rooting. Now, I am already on my third watering to get them to perk back up, and it's because of where they're at. They're in the direct sun all the time, and in all honesty, because this is the only place I have to be able to have them on a flat surface to allow all these little plantlets to root, is the reason why I'm having to do this. I knew I was going to have to do this when I did this and put them up here, but it's still something you have to think about when you're in a gardening situation like I am. I can't move these guys in the house. I don't have the space for it because the RV is a small, well, it's not small RV, but it is a smaller one and older, so it doesn't have quite the storage room that a lot of the other ones do. So it is something that when you're doing this type of gardening is definitely something you have to think about. This will perk back up. They do. This is entirely water stress. And once it gets up enough water into its root system, it will ease off. And as soon as I cut these plantlets free, it will go into a bigger pot, and then it's going to end up going up alongside all the rest of the strawberries, which are over here, which are not stressed at all. These guys are perfectly fine, perfectly happy, and don't have to be watered a few times a day in order to keep them with enough water to make them happy. That's the major difference in paying attention to where your sun is and planning for intensity. I deliberately have these guys to where they're shaded at the most intense part of the day. And all of my plants that are along the shaded area are happy. The ones that are on the table are not. It's the reason why the blueberries, which I'm going to bring you over to see the blueberries, they aren't sickly like the strawberry as far as looks, but they also are not 100% happy. I can see when I look up here, some of the new growth nodes are showing stress. The plant's deciding on whether or not it's going to sacrifice it. And blueberries tend to live in boggy, acidic ground, so they tend to not like to dry out at all. And like I said, I'm watering these guys continuously. So let's go ahead and get back to the rest of the garden. So these are my raspberries. Now, the raspberries, if I can find it, up here, have started blooming. That made me really happy because I bought these raspberries this year. Usually I don't expect to see any kind of fruit at all on plants that are in this particular family because they tend to only fruit on second year canes. Now I did suspect that these darker woody stems are second year canes because this is what you typically see on a first year cane. This nice, pretty green growth, whereas second year canes tend to look a little on the rougher side. But I wasn't sure because I didn't grow this myself. So now this one does have to be up potted, very definitely. I have not been happy with the pot that it's in. It outgrew it very, very fast, so it's going to have to go in one more the size the strawberries are in. So we'll get there when we get there. But I'm getting there. Now, in this terracotta pot right here is dill, and I use this dill pretty regularly. I make a type of pickle. It's a refrigerator pickle for my son, and it uses the dill leaf rather than the dill seed because it's a more mild flavored dill, and it's his favorite thing in the world. So I use that dill quite regularly, and it's still very large. And I'm glad I did reseed it because it was struggling, and now it's not. So I'm happy with that. Now coming over here, this is the San Marzan. And it is in the direct sunlight, but it doesn't seem to mind it. And I'll do something about it if it ever starts acting like it's going to mind it. Now, I always recommend anytime you look at indeterminates, if you don't want them to get out of control, look for these little suckers. Let's see if I can get down to where you can see it. And let's see. So you see this stem right in here. Let me get it to free focus. Okay, focus. This stem right here, this middle thing right here is a sucker. And you want to remove that sucker to where, if I can get it to refocus. This is a new camera, so I'm still learning it. So yeah, you want to remove it to where it's not there, simply so that you don't have an issue with it getting out of hand, because these guys will very, very quickly get out of hand. And these guys, I'm going to end up probably tying them up along this little trellis and then up along the back of the RV and up the ladder of the RV. Let me pull it out. Yeah. So, and that way that's the reason why it's where it's at, is that way I have the ability to keep tying it up. And then over here, is the other African daisy that now has a nice pretty bloom on it. And this back here is a Tiny Tim tomato. And these guys don't get over a foot tall. This is a true dwarf tomato. And I want, because it's supposed to be a dwarf cherry tomato, I want to see what size the cherry tomatoes are. So I'm looking forward to that one growing out. And that pretty much covers the garden area, with the exception of the compost barrel. I use a compost barrel because I don't have the space for a correctly sized, quick turning compost. I can't do that here. I have to have something that I can move. So it's compost barrel. And I'll go into those later on in a different video. So we'll go ahead and cover what we're going to be planting and where and how we're going to do it in just a minute. But first, I want to show you that the strawberry is starting to perk up. Now, obviously, I'm still going to have to hit it a few more times with water, but it will get there. And that's the reason why you really, really want to pay attention to your sun levels. You don't want to end up with your strawberries or any other plants water suffering like this. So, but I did want to show that this does happen. And I, at least in this case, I knew it was going to. I didn't catch this in time. Normally I catch it before it gets quite like this, but it will snap back. Anyway, I will meet you back over at the big 880 gallon grow bag with what I'm going to be putting in today, which for me is Mother's Day, but you won't see this until Tuesday. So it's not going to be Mother's Day for you, but there is a reason why I do this, and I'll explain a little bit deeper in a minute. So my basic way of doing it is by bringing out all of the vials I'm going to be planting, where I'm going to plant them, and in their locations. So right now, we're going to be doing Livingston Royal Burgundy Bush stringless beans. And they will go in 2 of these, I think they're 2 square feet beds. They're actually quite large. They're not small. And then we're going to be doing pickle bush cucumbers. I'll be doing 1 in 1 bed. Red Pride tomatoes, another one in another bed. And my Space Master 80 cucumbers will go in 1 bed. A Jewel Amethyst eggplant is going to go in another one. And bush tomato Italian Roma in another one. And then last but not least, we'll be doing at the very edge of the bed a Black Beauty zucchini. So let's get started. So this is how I lay them out. I put the seed vial in where I'm going to put them, and then I start planting, and then we'll water this bed in real heavily, and we'll be done. They're pretty simple, but this is what I'm going to be planting. And one cool thing about these, in about 2-3 weeks, I'm going to put those metal tomato cages that you always wonder what anybody uses them for around the 2 bush variety of cucumbers, because supposedly they're perfect for those. And if I ever find a use for those cages, I will make my day, because I have a few of them from many years ago. I don't really use. I tried to use them as a trellis for what was supposed to be a dwarf variety of melon, and it wasn't a dwarf variety of melon. It ended up being a mess and caused more problems than anything else. So I'm looking forward to this, and we'll go ahead and get to planting. Now, it's hard for me to film because this particular bed, which is actually a bed rather than just a potted, which is kind of neat, but it is rather bed, is actually on the hard pack that the fifth wheel is stabilized on. It's right next to the stabilizers. Those are the front stabilizers. So this stuff is actually quite sharp. So it is hard for me to film. I'm going to try to film at least one or two just so you can see what I'm doing, and then go from there. I would normally nick the Black Beauty seeds, the Black Beauty zucchini seeds, but I'm not going to. I want to see how they do. This is pretty heavy organic matter. I ended up having to go with a different soil provider because the last 3 bags of the organic soil that I was getting from Miracle-Gro has been almost nothing but sticks, and I can't use that. So we're going to be doing this. Now you'll notice that a lot of people put perlite. I know I probably should. Now this has big enough pieces that I don't think I'm going to need to do that. It has big enough organic matters that it should help with drainage, but I have a habit of not doing it anymore, whereas I used to from living in the desert. Unlike most areas where you want a lot of drainage, when you're dealing with desert growing, you want to slow the water drainage down. You want it to have drainage, but you want it to slow down. And the reason being is because the sun is brutal, and if you have drainage where everybody else does, your plants are going to dry out so fast they can't use the water. They won't have it available to them. So you want to slow it down. So I typically don't use perlite except for in my house plants. So I'm having to get back in the habit of using it in my outdoor plants too, because it's a lot wetter and rainier here. There's my mouse control. She's a great mouse control. And she's trying to tell me that I'm doing something that she thinks I should not be doing, so I should be petting her. And she is a long-haired Russian Gray, also known as a Nevalong. She's about 11 years old, and she's still an impressive mouser. Hey, Gracie, Grace. Grace, can you look at the camera, lady? Thank you. Now let's go ahead and get to planting. So we'll go ahead, and I'm doing both cucumbers on the front outside of the beds because my husband parks his truck right next to them, and these guys should only get 3 feet tall. The vines should get about 3 feet, and with them trellised, they shouldn't interfere with him. So I'm going to open a little, just a little spot, and do not a crazy amount. I only want 1 more. And I'll do 3 in the center, and the strongest one is the one I will go ahead and keep. And the others I will weed out. I might try to prick them out and put them in pots when I have more pots, but I'm running kind of low on those. So I don't know. But from here, I'll just take a little bit of soil from around and go ahead. Now these seeds are big enough that I'm not too worried about overburying them. And then we'll go ahead and move on to the rest of them. I'll get them all situated and in the beds, and then I'll see you back when it's time to water them in. All right, so right here at this, I really can't stand these supposed hoses. They're not kinkless, but at this one, because when I was touching the soil, it is Which I watered everything pretty heavily yesterday, even though they had nothing in them. So I'm really going to really soak them in, because this is drier than I expected it to be. And down about 2 inches it's not, which is good. That means it's not completely going to be hydrophobic, but it is slightly hydrophobic. Now just about anything, when it says that it's a growing medium, it's usually got some peat moss in it. Now you have to look for peat free anymore, especially after COVID, because unfortunately the soil quality for commercial soil manufacturers has gone extremely downhill since COVID because of the level of demand. They're not able to meet the demand, so instead of accepting that they can't meet the demand, they're producing inferior quality soils, which to me is just really sad, especially for new gardeners who are convinced that they're doing something wrong when it may not be that they're doing anything wrong. It might be just the soil that they purchased. In fact, a lot of times that was one of the things I was seeing in Arizona a lot, is one, a misunderstanding of the difference between dirt and soil. Dirt is lifeless, soil is full of microlife. And then understanding that you do really want a quality soil. It is necessary. Now these guys are all watered in. I'm going to go ahead and water all of the potted plants. Just give them a light watering, nothing overly heavy, just so that I don't have any of these smaller ones dry out. And because it is a lot warmer today and a lot drier today than it's been, so I want to keep everything nice and hydrated. And of course, sweet potatoes love water. I've never been able to overwater a sweet potato. But not all plants like water like sweet potatoes, so I try not to overdo it. And I find it harder for me to back off on watering than to overwater anymore, because I'm so used to a desert climate. And being used to a desert climate, I'm going to the old adage of sticking my finger in instead of a regular watering schedule like I used to do, just because. And like you see where this dill is not fully drained, that's because I'm so used to slowing the drainage down rather than speeding it up, that I'm having to remember to put perlite in my outdoor plants too, because they need the extra drainage. Although daylight today, they probably wouldn't agree with me. Now this one down here is ginger, but it hasn't come up, and I'm actually starting to see the ginger root, but the ginger root doesn't look shriveled or dying, so I figure it's probably still okay. I just need to rebury it. And I'm gonna put all these guys watered in. The African daisies will probably be very, very happy. And then take a look. They are perking back up. I'm going to go ahead and give them a bit more water just to see them through, because I'm still not seeing that pot really drain at the bottom. What I'm seeing is spillage from, I'm not seeing actual drainage. So that's something I've got to keep an eye on. And I don't fully turn the water on when I'm watering the little plantlets, but they do have to be watered too. And then That right there is the alyssum, which is eventually, when I get those to sprout out, I'm gonna end up dividing the alyssum up and it'll go on the 2 exterior corners just to keep some bugs away. Because though I have been seeing ladybugs and ladybug larvae, I know better than to assume that I'm free and clear of all the bugs. I apologize, that's a motorcycle going down the highway. I am close to a highway. So, anyway, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.